Brilliant. Non-technical issues. Jay Sean, thank you. Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I think Tosin could be a very smart signing for Chelsea Football Club, as I've already said. I know some guys were saying in the chat as well, but that's kind of how I look at it. I don't think this is an Enzo signing. I don't think this is one of the players that he would want Chelsea to be going after. But I think that it's probably a deal that works out for him, works out for Chelsea, works out for the player himself. It means he doesn't have to move too far. So, yeah, I think we can live with that, to be honest with you. What are your thoughts? And because we've had to restart the stream, I'm going to have to ask you guys to drop a like on the video again, because obviously cutting out halfway through a stream is not ideal at all. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. We've obviously got some incomings starting to gather a little bit of momentum for Chelsea Football Club in terms of Tosin and in terms of the manager that looks to be done as well. I'm just waiting on Chelsea's official announcement on Maresca, but it's obviously going to happen. I'm not sold on the idea of him being Chelsea's manager. I'm really, really not. I've had people try and convince me and tell me that it's a positive move. I've had people suggest to me why he is better than what we've had and why he's an improvement. But I'll be honest, until I see it on the form table or in terms of how we're playing and results and the fact that the squad is improving, I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't believe it if I'm honest with you. I would be quite surprised if he has a really, really good first season at Chelsea Football Club. But he did start really well at Leicester and they got playing really, really good football early on. And he got his ideas across really quickly, which is something I think, and I've said, that Pochettino failed to do. So let's wait and see on Maresca. I think it's an interesting one. I think I don't want to give too much of a judgment before he's even managed a team or met the players or even been appointed. Am I disappointed? Yes, because I worry that Chelsea Football Club aren't heading in the direction I want them to. And that worries me a little bit. What does everyone else think? I think we're good now, by the way. I think sound and everything is good. Hopefully it manages to stay live. So yeah, what are we looking for Maresca when he comes in? Are we expecting him to want to make any signings? I've even seen people suggesting that Dewsbury Hall could be someone that's on Chelsea's radar because of the obvious links. I think we could potentially see Lavia hopefully get himself fit, and I feel like this would be something that could potentially work. Gerald, let me open that up. Poch adopted a style that he's not used to, and we got 16, 18 points now. We get someone who's versed and initiated the style with Pep, and you're not convinced. Gerald, I'll be honest, I'm not. I hear what you're saying about him having a really good sort of education from Pep Guardiola, but I think the issue is that, look, I like the fact he's set on a style, but I do wonder whether or not someone coming from the Championship is the right move for Chelsea Football Club. I do. I'll be honest, the Championship is miles off the Premier League, hence why the 3 teams that got promoted went straight back down. They really did. And I'll be honest, I'm not convinced that a style of football is better than winning games. I know people suggest this, and don't get me wrong, I love watching a team that's successful with a great style of football. But I'm not convinced, and no one has proved to me yet that they'd like a style of football and losing is okay, because I just don't think it is. I mean, people would rather win, even if the football isn't that entertaining. I think that's the issue here, is that Maresca, if he's going to come in and implement this style of football, he ultimately absolutely has to be getting results as well. I really do believe that. But ultimately, Chelsea have done their due diligence, they've done their research, and they believe that he's the right man for the job. And I hope they're right. But the issue is that they haven't exactly proved. See, Gerald, this is what I'm saying. I'd rather win than worry about the style of football. I really would. I could live with Chelsea playing in a way that I don't necessarily like if it meant that Chelsea were back on top. I really could. And the thing is, just because he's learned from Pep Guardiola, it doesn't mean that you have to You have to follow in the footsteps of Pep just because he's the one doing well. See, this is where I'm going to disagree because, Gerald, you're saying the style of football massively contributes to wins. I don't know if that's fair to say, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that it does. I think you have to look around that. I remember when Jose Mourinho was in charge of Chelsea and someone said to him, he said, did Chelsea play the best football? Would you say Arsenal are better? And the journalist was like, you might say that they are. And he said, okay, how many points behind are they? Because they weren't in the fight for the title, because Chelsea weren't necessarily all bothered about style of football. And in games where they had to sacrifice that to win, they did. So I don't think that style of football massively contributes towards wins if it looks nice. I think that's what you're suggesting. I agree. I completely agree. I would absolutely rather see Chelsea win than just playing nice football and losing, because Brighton played nice football this season and finished 12th. Is that acceptable for Brighton? Maybe. It isn't acceptable for Chelsea. Obviously, Leicester got promoted under Enzo, but at times Leicester's fans were literally booing his football, and he said, "If you don't like it, I'm going to leave." Seyhan Cassell, I don't want to get that wrong. Good content. Hope you thrive in the scene. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm glad that everyone's coming in and joining. If you haven't already, make sure to drop a like. We've had to restart the stream due to technical issues, but we're aiming for 20 to 25 likes as we always do. It's obviously a massive, massive summer for Chelsea Football Club now, ahead of a whole new summer of uncertainty, which I'll be honest, I didn't think we'd be talking about this summer. I genuinely felt like Chelsea would be going into this summer pretty settled and understanding what the next season might look like for Chelsea Football Club with very few adjustments. Now it's complete upheaval again. I don't disagree. I think Leicester's squad was so good that it was almost inevitable that they got promoted. We've got some real sort of debates regarding the team. And Say says here, I want Elise, but I also want Noni and I also want Amari. It's so complicated. Look, this is the issue, right? Is that Chelsea Football Club haven't really thought through their approach regarding a number of players. Like they've gone and signed a huge amount of right wingers. That if they go and sign Elise as well, it's another one. There's Esteval, there's Kendry Pires, there's Amari Hutchinson, there's Angelo, there's Cole Palmer potentially can play out there, and there's Noni Madueke. It's a lot of names. Throw Elise into that mix. It gets a little bit complicated. You have to start looking at it really and going, right, are they good enough? Have they been performing? Does the manager like them? And then they have to be moved on. But the issue is, though, there's so many players. If they're not playing, how on earth do you generate a good enough amount of money for them? This is the worry I have with the way we've approached this, is I don't know how we generate the money from players that aren't playing. Gerald says, Elise, the only thing he lacks is Elise. Wait, no, Elise. Gerald, I'll be honest, you might need to write that again. But I think what you might be getting at is that Noni isn't at Elise's level, which I'd agree with. Elise's output has been fantastic considering the amount of games that he's played this season. I think the issue, though, around him is that it is the amount of games that he's played. It might not be enough to warrant the price tag. That's the only thing. I agree. That's what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. I think Noni's output is definitely not at Elise's level. And Elise, look, let's be real. His finishing has been nothing short of exceptional from outside of the area and in that position where he loves to cut in on his left foot and worry defenses. It's Iron Robben-like. It's fantastic. His left foot is an absolute wand. Delivery, shots, creativity, fantastic player all round. And he's quick and he's agile and he'd be a fantastic signing. He's absolutely the player that I believe Chelsea should be looking at that level and above to recruit into the team. I don't want to see players now that haven't proven themselves, but there's just absolutely no there's no strength to this potential leak for me. I'm just not sold on where the leak has originated from and if it could happen. I'm just not sold. But look, if Chelsea can go and get Elise, like I already said, and pit Champions League level clubs to him, that'd be out. That would be amazing, and it would suggest that we're moving in a good direction, and these players are willing to come and still play for Chelsea. Player for player, I don't think they're far off. The only reason Elise has that much production is because Palace rely on him like we relied on Cole Palmer. Yeah, I hear you on that. I definitely do. I think if a player's relied upon, they become sort of a big fish in a small pond. And I think that ultimately could be the case with Elise. The issue is, though, is that Eze and Mateta were definitely sharing the load towards the end of the season, and he was still performing. So, yeah, I think he's a player that will sort of level up his game when he's around better players. I really do. Elise would be fantastic for Chelsea Football Club. We can't even deny that. Even if he played 20 games a season and got you 16 GA, it's better than what some players do in 40 games. And with all the games coming up, we need to be recruiting. I've said this. We can't go into Conference League football and have this many players unavailable because of injuries. They either have to be sold or they have to make sure they can stay fit, or we have to recruit new players that can stay fit. You're going to go Azerbaijan away next season. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what we're going to get in the Conference League in terms of groups. It'll be interesting to see who we draw for the qualifiers. Might be tempted to go to the qualifiers and get a feel for it, but there could be some really good away days. There's no denying that. It could be really, really good. What are the general thoughts on Chelsea's direction at the moment? Because obviously we did touch on it a little bit, and then we were halfway through and the stream cut out. But are people genuinely quite happy with Maresca? I'm kind of wanting to. I've obviously been quite quiet on the situation, to be honest with you, until I dropped a video earlier today. But I want to know what people's thoughts are on Maresca. I want to know if you think this is the right appointment for Chelsea. I want to know if you think that Maresca is the right man to take Chelsea forwards. Are you happy with it? Are you concerned about the direction of Chelsea Football Club? Because I am a little bit. I'm not sure whether I feel like this is a step backwards. And another thing we can talk about as well, you think it's an upward trajectory, you're happy with Maresca, just give him time. I think that's going to be the most difficult thing, is giving a manager like Maresca time. If a manager's coming from, like Poch, right? Let's use him as an example. Pochettino was coming with a bit of a rep. Everyone knew that he was going to need some time. And people were kind of saying, no, give Poch time, give him time. And ultimately, he kind of proved that with a bit of time, his results improved. The issue is Pochettino had a little bit of money in the bank in terms of what he's achieved in football. For me, Maresca's credit is minimal. I really, really don't see that the Chelsea fans will be patient with him, because they'll take their frustration out because of the board and the fact that they're potentially ruining Chelsea Football Club on the manager. And realistically, it could be awful if he doesn't get off to a really good start, which I think is absolutely crucial, because I don't want to see that Chelsea Football Club have gone backwards. I've already said that, but I really don't. I want to see that we're making progress, and it is a forwards and upwards trajectory, like you said, Say. However, it's encouraging to see what he did in his first full season at Leicester, and the reports that are coming out of there. That'll be interesting to see. Donna, how are you doing? Gerald, I think the squad is good enough to compete with City at the top, and I think Chelsea need to start the season with a bang. I completely agree. Absolutely so important to start off really, really well, to be honest with you. If we don't, like I said, could be concerning. How do I think Jose will do at Fenerbahce? They haven't won a title in 11 years and never won in Europe. For me, that's a great move. And look, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit jealous, because the fact that Fenerbahce are getting Jose Mourinho when he was available and we aren't, it always feels like I would love Jose Mourinho to be at Chelsea, and I would have loved Jose Mourinho to be at Chelsea for so many years, and it all work out. But sometimes I think a manager does go a little bit stale, and potentially football leaves them behind, and they have to sort of remind people that they're still good enough to do it. And I think this is what Jose might be doing. in terms of going out to Turkey, potentially winning something with real loyal fans that absolutely love him. I think Turkish football and Jose Mourinho could be a match made in heaven or an absolute riot. I'm not sure how it's going to go down. But what I do know is that if he achieves with a team in Turkey on a European level, my goodness me, I think then he absolutely ups his stocks. If Jose Mourinho takes Fenerbahce into, the Champions League semi-finals, quarter-finals, or into the Europa League and win it, Conference League and win it, whatever they end up in. I'm not sure where second place in Turkey gets, but my suggestion would be that it would probably be around the Europa League that they'd automatically qualify for. I think that would be an unbelievable achievement, and it really would put him back on the radar of some top clubs, because how I feel like football's going at the moment is, yeah, Gerald, you make a good point there about Ancelotti at Everton. They kind of realise what they don't have anymore, and I think football is going to kind of spin around a little bit, because right now, if you're a manager and you've been there and done it, you're not attractive anymore, weirdly enough. But a lot of teams just kind of steering away and they want to go for a younger, more upcoming manager. Look at Bayern Munich. They could have gone and got Jose Mourinho and guaranteed they won the Bundesliga again, or guaranteed they went and won a trophy, even if Leverkusen are really going to contest them and make it a tough league. And the same with Dortmund. But they didn't. They've gone for Vincent Kompany, who brings absolute no guarantees of winning a trophy, no guarantees of even results in a league, apart from what he did in Burnley. And that's my biggest worry with someone like Maresca, is that it doesn't always translate if you do well in a league below. And obviously their squad was subpar to Chelsea's, but that's the sort of concerns I've had. Mourinho will be in the Champions League. That's exactly it. You never know. You just never know what he could achieve, to be honest with you. I think Jose Mourinho is a smart guy. There's a reason he's taking a job like this. And I think he knows that he needs to elevate himself back up. And I think there's other managers out there that should be looking to do the same. And there's other teams that are definitely kind of following the same suit, where they want this Pep Guardiola-like style and they want the manager to have had a link to Pep and things like that. And I feel like it's probably and honestly going to be something that we see happen a little bit more, to be honest with you, because I just want to see sensible decisions in football, and I want to see people stop being so obsessed with style of play over results. And I think that's a real issue at the moment. Yeah, Gerald, I don't disagree with this, by the way, is that I do think we have to hope Chelsea's pre-season is good. We see an idea of how we want to play, start to get an idea of the squad. There's obviously so many players in our squad, but it looks like and feels like most players are going to be fit by that point. The worry is obviously navigating the international football break, where we've got the Euros, maybe Copa America, a couple of other competitions. If we can navigate that with a pretty much full squad going into pre-season, we're all going to get such a clearer idea and understanding of Maresca and what he wants to do. The one worry I have, though, is that look at Poch in pre-season. We played really, really well, and then ultimately we didn't start the season like that. It was such a letdown. So I do want to see pre-season, but I have to try and remember and control how excited I get about it, because ultimately Chelsea last pre-season looked way better than they were for at least the first 20, 25 games in the Prem. Would you want Maatsen back? It's a real tough one, this. I saw this. I think it was Joe Cole suggesting that Chelsea should block his departure. I'll be honest. I think because of the way we've spent, we can't afford to turn down 40 million a clear profit. I just don't think we can. I think that's the issue. I worry that Maatsen probably wasn't good enough for the Prem at times and thrived in Germany. Why would you want to come back if you were Maatsen when you could stay at Dortmund, who are playing in Champions League finals later on today, that are fighting for competitive spots in their league? They play a much more forward-thinking, attacking style of football. I just think, why would you? You've got a chance of getting in the Dutch squad if you stay at Dortmund. I'm not. If I was Maatsen, I'd probably want to go. But the rumor is that they can't even afford to buy him anyway because they can't even afford Sancho as well. I agree, Gerald. Honestly, I agree. I completely hear that. A lot of Chelsea fans thought that he was the answer when there was no evidence to suggest it last season. He played. Pochettino gave him games, and in any position, he looked miles off it. He did not look comfortable in the Premier League, and there's no denying in Dortmund and in the Champions League, he's looked comfortable and he's at his level. And if I was Maatsen, I wouldn't want to be coming back to Chelsea. I just wouldn't. I'd go, you know what? I've made it. Look at the club I'm at. I'm performing. I'm going to play in a Champions League final. Why do I need to go back to Chelsea when who knows when Chelsea are next going to be competing on a European front like Dortmund are? I'm not sure that I see that happening. However, look, don't get me wrong. I think Maatsen's a good player and potentially someone just had to find the right way to use him. And hear me out on this, by the way. If Dortmund don't sign Maatsen and Company's at Bayern, I wouldn't be shocked if that move happens because Company got a lot out of Maatsen at Burnley and I could see that happening. People haven't really spoken about that yet, but I know they're talking about Zinchenko and look, maybe they go and sign Zinchenko, but I feel like they make Poch seem like he didn't like Maatsen because he didn't play a lot of games. I'll be honest. I think Poch liked every player in the Chelsea squad. I think he's like that type of guy. I think the issue was that ultimately, performance-wise, and the fact that our team was already fairly small and not so physical, Maatsen just didn't really stand a chance unless he hit the ground running, which he didn't do. People can say all they want, but Maatsen didn't hit the ground running at Chelsea Football Club in terms of the Premier League. In terms of pre-season, he did. He looked really good. But in the Premier League, it just wasn't happening. It just wasn't. So, yeah, look, if we can generate a good amount of money for Maatsen, it would help because we need to raise funds. I've got no doubt about that. I know people suggest that we don't need to spend money and blah, 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 and we're going to be okay. And then other journalists suggest that Chelsea do need to spend money. Ultimately, if you spend £1 billion, you need to start generating that money back somewhere. And I think selling Maatsen for 40 million, selling Trevor Chalobah for 20, 30 million, selling Lukaku for 30 million, selling Broja for something, whoever's going to pay that, selling Conor Gallagher for in excess of 50, 60. You start sort of putting some money back in the bank account. And if every season you're generating a lot of money like that, eventually that billion is ultimately going to come back within the next sort of decade. You'd like to think, which is obviously difficult to say, but if you buy Cole Palmer for 40 million and then out of nowhere he's now worth potentially 120 if not more, and if someone was willing to pay that, you start sort of turning that net spending round in your favor, don't you? Yeah, I agree, right? I agree. I think Cucurella, what you're saying there is it's not always down to height. It really isn't. But Cucurella comes with a far more aggressive body on the line style than what Maatsen does. Maatsen's a very technical, nice player. There's a reason Poch saw Maatsen in the 10 at preseason or off the right. He definitely felt like he was playing out of position on the left. And I think he knew that he needed more physicality defensively than Maatsen being that option. And I think, look, Maatsen's gone to Dortmund and that left-sided role works for him perfectly. But that's why I've actually got a little bit of hope regarding Tosin, because I feel like we need some height in this Chelsea team. We need some physicality. And I feel like bringing in a defender like him is a step in the right direction in terms of adding that to our squad. It's on a free transfer. It's low risk. And I'm not saying it's going to be high reward, but he could surprise a lot of people, I think. And I'm kind of in that boat, hoping that he really does surprise me. He's got a good footballing education. He's good on the ball. There's times when he's been really, really good in the air for Fulham and been right up the top defensively in terms of him winning his headers and clearances and things like that. So, look, I think the reason, if Newcastle United are in for a player, you normally know in the recent years that you're onto a player that's pretty well thought out, to be honest with you. Gerald, this is the issue that I've said a number of times, that Chelsea's squad is small. And last year we found that a lot. And at times it cost us. And the reason that we've been poor from set pieces is probably down to that a little bit as well. We absolutely have to add physicality to the side. Look at Manchester City, look at Arsenal, look at Liverpool. They've gone and added physicality into their sides and benefited from it. And Chelsea have to do the same. Chelsea have to start recruiting players that kind of add that. Look at the teams that have been successful and the teams that are successful in Europe. They have that in abundance. They really do. Ain't Nori Kukurea would suit the Maresca system. Ain't Nori can play. Yeah, people really like Ain't Nori, don't they? I feel like Ain't Nori is the type of player that they said Leicester had on the left that's been really, really effective this season. It could obviously be him as well. I think Ain't Nori is a really good techie footballer. I feel like we're aiming really high if we can get someone like him in as well, because I feel like his future lies towards a Champions League level club as well, probably on the continent because of how he plays. I don't feel like Chelsea have this attraction power at the moment. Look, if we go and sign Elise, maybe I'll hear it, honestly, but I'm just not sure that we do. But if we can go and sign Elise, it would. A lot of people would turn their heads and go, hang on a minute, they've signed Elise, they're on to something here again. And then other players are interested. They want to come and play for Chelsea. CP is 6'2". Yeah, this is crazy, right? He's 6'2". When you look at Cole Palmer, you wouldn't think that. You really, really wouldn't. I hear that as well. The way he plays absolutely isn't how you'd expect someone of his height to play. It's crazy. So, yeah, I wouldn't change anything for the world, though, actually, in terms of Cole Palmer, because that header that he got the other day, class. If he can imagine if he can start to use that to his advantage as well, he could be fantastic. He could be so good. And I really hope that the issue is that Poch was getting such a good tune out of Cole Palmer, obviously all season long. I really hope we can maintain it with Maresca. I'll be honest, that's my biggest worry. I'm concerned that Chelsea don't maintain the form of Cole Palmer and a couple of others that were really, really good. I can't deny that. I am genuinely concerned about that. Yeah, Gerald. Both players, I'll be honest, they want the ball at their feet. They know that's where they can make stuff happen. That's also something I think we should touch on as well a little bit, is that you don't want to sign too many players that you'd consider above. You have to realize this, that if you go and sign these players that are considered above, genuinely, you have to have a balance. For every Bov player you have to have a Conor Gallagher or a Dazassi, someone that is absolutely heart on the sleeve, fight for everything. And I'm not saying Elise doesn't fight, because Elise got injured fighting and running back from the halfway line minutes into the second half, and he pulled his hamstring, didn't he? Or hamstring? I think it was hamstring under Hodgson this season. So you have to make sure that you balance out the squad. But ultimately, there's something cool as well, isn't there, about a player that would come across Bov when they produce, like Elise, he don't even celebrate. And most of the time, the goals are outrageous and warrant a celebration. So, yeah, Chelsea, if that's legit and that's serious, concrete interest, then Chelsea absolutely have to do what they can. Yeah, I think for me, the biggest area that I would be focusing on right now is who Chelsea are going to be bringing in up front. There's rumours that potentially, Benjamin Sesko is now concrete interest, which would be absolutely the right type of striker that I think Chelsea should be going for with this current system. And I think that's important to remember, because there are strikers out there that are putting up better numbers than him. There are strikers out there that are going to cost a lot more money than him. But in this current system and the way we've been and the way we've approached transfer deals, I genuinely think that realistically, Benjamin Sesko would be a better move for us. But than he would be for Arsenal or something like that. Because I feel like Arsenal need to compete next season. Next season, the season after, they need to go and win the Premier League. Benjamin Sesko might take another 2 years of adapting and learning and finding out his body and growing as a player and mentally and all that sort of stuff. Chelsea have that kind of time to build something here. And I feel like he'd be a great addition. I really do. But ultimately, I could see why he'd want to go to Arsenal and potentially try and win something. But if that's real and concrete and Chelsea are seriously interested in making that happen, then I can get behind that all day long. I really can. Dark web, this is true, actually, and we should touch on this. And I'm really hoping to see something develop in this area pretty soon. It says goalkeeper is another important position, considering the like of young. Yeah, I agree that the Chelsea board obviously just like young players. I'm not going to read that out. Bento Costa, ideal would be Stefan Ortega. Maresca needs a new goalkeeper. Yeah, look, I think if we're being fair, I think the way Maresca's going to play, Petrovic, he's not good enough with the ball at his feet. And I think that is absolutely written for me that we go and replace him now. I felt like, do you know what? Before, I didn't know Maresca was going to get the job, but going into next season, I felt like if we had Petrovic, he's not good enough, but it's also not the end of the world. The issue is, though, is that now, with the way Maresca's going to play and set us up, we absolutely have to be getting in a goalkeeper that's comfortable with the ball at his feet. A lot of people are suggesting that Kepa may have a chance here because he's good with the ball at his feet. A lot of people are suggesting that even Sanchez could have a chance. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to see Kepa in a Chelsea shirt unless he's like number 3. And I don't want to see Sanchez in a Chelsea shirt, to be honest with you. And I think we have to be looking to try and move both those players on this summer as well. And if we generate anything above 10 million, we've done well because they're not worth that. But in terms of goalkeepers, there's a market, isn't there, for young upcoming goalkeepers? There's definitely a few that are on the radar of people. I can see here names being mentioned, Mamadashvili as well. So I don't disagree. A goalkeeper that comes with a real good height and the confidence to come and claim crosses and things like that is very well needed as long as they're good with the ball to their feet. Ortega as well, another one who potentially, if he wanted to leave Manchester City, I'm sure that wouldn't be a bad move for Chelsea to start things off and then potentially scout that position really well and find someone to move in to that role in the coming seasons, because you have to get goalkeeper right if you're going to play football in the way that Maresca does. You really do, because playing out from the back, they need to be so confident. Arsenal feel like they're a step away from the league and they're not going to sign. This is what I'm saying. If Arsenal go and sign Sesko, who's just turned 21, I think, is he... Wait, Arsenal... Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, he's done really well, and I actually think he probably could come in and add the right amount of goals to Arsenal, and Arteta has shown that he can get a tune out of players, but Arsenal really need to go and get themselves a striker that can score excess of 20, 25 goals in the Premier League. And for me, it's Isak. Isak, Ollie Watkins on evidence of this season, potentially. They need to go and make something happen with one of the better strikers in and around the Premier League, but definitely below Arsenal. They absolutely have to. You know how Manchester United used to recruit? They'd go for the best players in the Prem. Bayern Munich did the same in Germany for so many years, and it meant that they consistently sort of squashed the threat of the other teams and improved themselves. And I think Arsenal have to go and do the same. If Arsenal go and sign a striker that puts another 30, 25 goals on their tally, why can't they fight for the Premier League title better than they've done so far in the last 2 seasons? So, yeah, I really think that's something they have to look at. But Chelsea, on the other hand, I think the way we're looking at things, we absolutely could live with Sesko being signed. I really think we could, because say you've got him and Jackson and they're both putting up 15 goals. I think that's okay. It's not great. It's not amazing, but it's a good place for us to try and move on from and build and things like that. Oh my gosh. I don't disagree, by the way. I absolutely don't disagree. Gyökeres, I just think he's being priced out of a move, but he would be great for Chelsea. But I think they're going to ask for way too much money. I really do. And I don't... The issue is people will look at a player like Darwin Núñez, and question whether or not a player coming from Portugal is the right thing to spend that amount of money on. Why do people believe Newcastle will agree to sell Isak? It's not Newcastle challenging the top 8. I think the issue with a player like Isak is that Isak will think that he needs to be playing Champions League football. If you're scoring 20 goals in the Premier League, you probably are okay to start assuming you're good enough to play Champions League football. And I think Isak is probably sat there thinking, I need Champions League football. I think the same with Bruno Guimaraes in terms of Newcastle United as well. They require big money moves to top sides. And I think if Newcastle had got Europa League football, you could probably go, okay. But the fact that they haven't got any European football this season, that would worry me as Isak and worry me as sort of Bruno as well, that how long is it going to take? Because obviously Bruno is a little bit older than Isak, but I both think and expect them to be the centre of some sort of transfer speculation this summer. And I definitely think one of the two will leave and generate Newcastle United a huge amount of money. If Newcastle hold on to them, by the way, fair play. Like, well done. Chelsea Blue says, Newcastle have to sell. I'd rather try for Isak. Oh my gosh. If Chelsea went inside Isak, this is what I'm saying. It's the level of player we should be looking at as a club. But right now, where we are, I think they're a level above where Chelsea are at, and it would take a lot of money. Why can't Isak go to Arsenal? Go to a team in Europe and ultimately demand a lot more money than what Chelsea are ever going to put him on wage-wise. Chelsea are trying to sign Isak before he goes to Newcastle, if that makes sense, or before he goes to Sociedad from Dortmund or something like that, because I'm sure he was at Dortmund. That's the kind of move that Chelsea wants. They can get a player on low wages and ultimately reap the rewards of their development. So it'll be interesting to see. But look, it's going to be an interesting summer. We might end up seeing an announcement for Tosin very early on next week, potentially, because it's now June the 1st. That normally means the transfer window's open. I'd probably like to see Chelsea announce that they've signed a manager first, because I absolutely don't... I'll be honest, I really don't want to see too many outgoings at Chelsea Football Club until a manager's announced, got into the club and met everyone and basically understood who is going to be at what level, who could be required for his team and his tactics. That's kind of what I want to see. Has anyone asked Joe Shields who he wants? Do you know what? Dark web. This is so true. Joe Shields is absolutely one of the guys I would listen to and trust his opinion at the moment, because he seems to be getting it right a lot of the time. He's got some really good links. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he's got one in the locker for a striker as well. So let's see what happens. If you haven't already, make sure to smash a like on the video as well. We're trying to get 20 likes on the video. We had some technical difficulties, but it's been a great stream. I've enjoyed chatting. I'm intrigued to see what the summer looks like for Chelsea Football Club. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Enjoy the Champions League final tonight if you're going to watch it. Let me know who you think is going to win as well. And I will see you in a bit.